On the Fringe with Dan RadioStyle. Hope everybody out there's having themselves a great day. I've got some major news that's coming out around the Supreme Court, around certain court rulings, around something that came out about Trump and the courts. Got some great information that's going to be coming out around that, and probably going to spend a little time talking about some of the importance of the courts, of the, quote, court packing, and all the things that the right are being accused of, as well as the things that the left are being questioned directly on and not choosing to answer. Now, one thing that jumped out, and this kind of just put a little smile on my face, because it really just truly speaks to how disgusting and disturbing this company is. I canceled my subscription, I don't know, as soon as this thing came out, this show Cuties. I don't know if you guys have heard about it. I'm certainly not going to show any pictures, but it's a show about like 11-year-old girls that go up to about 13, 14, some dance troupe. Supposedly there's some twerking involved. Whatever. And so the Netflix CEO defends his choice to leave this show on the air. Now, I bring this up for a couple reasons. One, I don't think I'm going to get in too much trouble with YouTube because I probably have some competition to them. And two, I really want to point out how messed up this is. On October 12th, the co-CEO and chief content officer at Netflix, Ted Sarandos, took part in a Q&A held at MIPCOM, apparently. And this was out there in Texas, I guess. Now, his comment when asked about the film and whether it was a little bit wrong or shouldn't be happening or whatever, his response was, "The film speaks for itself. It's a very personal coming-of-age film. It's the director's story, and the film has obviously played very well at Sundance without any of this controversy and played in theaters throughout Europe without any of this controversy. It's a little surprising in 2020 America that we're having a discussion about censoring storytelling. This is storytelling about girls who they went out and got real-life girl actresses, put them on a stage, dressed them up in very scantily typed clothing, taught them dance moves that are very sexual in their nature and certainly provocative. And by doing this, they are sexualizing children in the means of telling a story about how children are sexualized. Some might have a problem with it, some might not. I do. I don't think that's cool. But he speaks out about it and poo-poos us for thinking that this isn't okay. So just offering you some information. If you still want to keep doing Netflix, go for it. They've got great movies, right? But they've also got some very scary stuff going on. Big news coming in. Michigan Supreme Court strikes down all of Whitmer's COVID-19 restrictions. This is good news. And it's got a wrinkle in it, kind of. So all of Whitmer's stuff, for the most part, got struck down. All of it. I think the state was a 4-3 ruling, declared that the executive orders that Whitmer issued under the Emergency Powers of Governor Act have no continuing legal effect. Basically, the court says, done. No more. Can't do it. So, in a separate ruling, the Michigan justice ruled 6-1 to reject Whitmer's request to delay the annulment of her orders until October 30th, 2020, right before the election, right? So she's basically saying, no, just give me a stay. Let me just go a little bit. Let me just have this power a little bit longer. And the court 6-1 said no. So almost immediately following the initial October 2nd, 2020 ruling calling Whitmer's issuance of executive orders during the COVID-19 event unconstitutional, Whitmer's health director, Robert Gordon, moved an emergency order that covered a great many of Whitmer's orders, circumventing the spirit of the court's decision. This is what the deep state's doing, just to give you some information. So, Whitmer was told by the Supreme Court that we've chosen and Trump's helped put people in office. Supreme Court says, no, that's not legal, that's unconstitutional. Whitmer says, no, but just give me a little bit longer. The court says, no, absolutely not. And then she says, all right, health director, help me out. So health director basically passes her executive orders. Now, how that works, I don't know. He doesn't necessarily have the power to push this, doesn't necessarily have the power to have the law enforcement support this. But Whitmer could said, yet that, cops, you have to support what Robert Gordon has said. So there is some questions. This Frank Salvato guy is looking into different ways that they might be able to possibly legally fight this. So there's more to come, but obviously huge step in that the Supreme Court, and this is precedence now too, the Supreme Court in Michigan said, no dice. Sorry, sweetheart, you're not allowed to do that. So good on us, good moves. We're making progress in the right direction. On a similar vein, Supreme Court denies Democrats an appeal of the emoluments case against Trump. So they tried to do this emoluments case a while back, and I'll get into what emoluments are. Don't worry, I didn't know what it meant either. It's freaking legalese for something stupid, basically. But they tried to go after Trump in a very, very big way here. And it's about getting money from properties that Trump has in foreign lands, like Europe and stuff like that. He's got hotels, right? So there's fees and there's different stuff that he's got to pay. So they were trying to say, well, the nature of that was actually part of this emoluments clause. So let's quickly define what the term emolument means. Black Law's Dictionary, which is the legal law dictionary, right, defines emolument as an advantage, profit, or gain received as a result of one's employment or one's holding of office. So essentially, if I'm using my powers as president, mostly, to make extra money on the side, well, then I'm breaking this emoluments clause. That's technically what's going on. Now, these first two parts of the clause, the foreign emoluments clause and the domestic emoluments clause, both apparently speak directly to the president. But what's interesting is the ineligibility clause speaks to the Congress. So no senator or representative shall, during the time for which he was elected, blah, 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 be appointed to any other office that can make money or any situation where they could possibly garner more wages from the American taxpayers. So there's some rules around that regarding the House. Now, do I think they're breaking it? Probably, but I doubt it. I doubt it's anything that you would ever catch them on. But ultimately, the Supreme Court, they don't even care. They just straight up said no. They didn't even offer an opinion. They straight up just said, meh, we don't care. So this Blumenthal Richard et al. Versus Trump, President of the U.S., was listed under certiorari denied in today's order from the Supreme Court. There was no reason, no opinion given for the decision. Basically, they said, no, we're not going to do it. I think it's because it's frivolous. I think it's because it's crazy. But it is one more thing where Trump maybe is having a small victory. We'll give him credit where I can, believe me, always. But I don't think the fight's anywhere close from being over, and I'm really glad he's out campaigning and doing his rallies and stuff again, because I really do think that's going to be very helpful going into this election. Now, another wonderful specimen, and I mean that with all sarcasm, Cuomo. Good old-fashioned Cuomo, not the nasty one on CNN, the good one. And I really do think he's probably the better of the two. I think Chris Cuomo over there is a piece of you-know-what. But here, Cuomo, Governor Cuomo in New York, he's blaming all of this controversy, all of this, I killed a bunch of people controversy, all of this, I passed an executive order as the governor that basically said, people with COVID need to be put into nursing homes. All the controversy around the fact that my death numbers are higher than any other state, and then oftentimes larger than a lot of the states combined. All that controversy, he blames it on the GOP, that would be Republicans, because we're talking about the truth. They don't like that. The inconvenient truth, as Al Gore frequently called it. Well, it's oddly inconvenient, too, in this case. We're not talking about credits for green stuff. We're talking about the truth. Oh, you don't like that. It's so inconvenient, this controversy. He's also blaming the New York Post for this controversy as well. So again, GOP, New York Post, he's got a lot of angst, a little bit. Upset feelings about how so many people died in his nursing homes under his watch because of his mandate that he issued in March. So I'm just giving you an idea of how these people blame things. Now, this was in his book that just recently came out that I will never pay a dime for or read because I don't even care about this guy. I really don't care. I seriously don't care. He's not going to be in office that much longer, even though I know Biden's planning on using him for some position. Who cares? Now, speaking of Biden and more silly, stupid things to say, where the deep state does constantly mess themselves, since this is a YouTube video, normally I wouldn't play it, but I think I can get away with 12 seconds, so we're going to go for it. Now, in this particular case, there's a question that took up the 15 seconds that I already played, and the question's beautiful. So, Joe Biden actually literally answers this question in a way that'll blow your mind. Gallup reported, this is the question, the reporter says, quote, Gallup reported last week that 56% of Americans said that they were better off today than they were 4 years ago. So why should people who feel that they are better off today under the Trump administration vote for you? Let's see what his saying is here.
Well, if they think that, they probably shouldn't. They think 54% of American people are better off economically today than they were in our administration. Well, their memory is not very good, quite frankly.
So first, he shouldn't vote for them, rather than they shouldn't vote for me. You understand that was 56% of Americans. That's a majority. So when we talk about majority rules and all that, and you guys got mad that Hillary had a little bit more of the majority vote, 56% of Americans that you don't think should vote for you aren't probably. So again, very interesting how he plays this off. And then he turns around and tries to blame it on them like, well, they obviously don't understand what they're talking about. So one, you're not being too bright about what the hell the question just was. Two, when he did answer it, by the way, instead of saying 56%, he said 54%. Just a moment ago, someone gave you a number that you already forgot. And I think it's the short-term memory that goes when you've got the Alzheimer's. I'm just saying, I'm not saying that's what he's got because I'm not a doctor. I can't assess him. I haven't spent time with him, but that's odd behavior. Like, you just heard that number. You just jacked it up. Wow, that's impressive. But yeah, and then on top of that, he goes ahead and blames that 56% of people for kind of being ignorant to how so much better Obama was. Wow. Another inconvenient truth that seems to keep happening on the left. It's really strange how that plays out. Oh, speaking of which, I found another one. Yeah, there was a couple of these. So apparently the International Monetary Fund has decided or found that the U.S. economy, oddly, seems to be recovering stronger than they originally anticipated. It's almost like Trump did something good there. It's not Obama's economy anymore. They can't take credit for it. They can't even pretend to take credit for it because it was Trump's virus. It was Trump's failed economy. All right, well, gee whiz, Trump's failed economy, even with a pandemic, has managed to do more for the economy. The stock market's up really high right now. And of course, one of the main reasons that is because people's pensions are tied up in the stock market. So if the stock market tanked anything like the government wanted it to, that would have been all of our retirements would have tanked with it. So Trump's not only kept the economy going, he's also kept our pensions alive. That's kind of interesting, isn't it? Biden would have ruined that, I'm quite sure. Something I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on, but it's something that's important, is there is some massaging of data, of search results, of people typing in certain things and the pre-populated things that follow. Seems to be a lot of attention right now in trying to flip the Senate. So we've got obviously a very close race going into this, and there's a lot of control and power that are being questioned. The Senate is the key. Holding the Senate will be the most important thing that can happen, even if the presidency changes. Holding the Senate is going to be key. Now, being able to take 2/3 of the Senate or something crazy like that, which I would really love to see, and I think is possible because of the violence, the riots, the poorly managed states that are been Democrat supermajorities for decades, that are failing, that are hurting for money, that have riots and protests that are going out of control, that are burning stuff down, that are arresting people that are trying to defend their property and their loved ones. I think a lot of people are really wondering what is going on the left. Yes, the ultra progressive, sure, they're gonna keep wanting to go down that path, and the progressive left, basically for that most part, are going to. But when you think about a lot of the people that are out in the streets that are taking down statues like they just recently did in Portland, when they're those people, in a lot of cases, they're not really typically voters. They really aren't. A lot of those people don't vote, and a lot of those people are so upset with Biden that they don't want to vote for him. They're certainly not going to vote for Trump. But Biden needs those crazy, wackadoo left progressives. He needs them to win. If he doesn't get those votes, he's got no chance. And he's already losing a large portion, or at least a solid portion, of the African-American group within this country. Now, is he taking all of it? No. Is he losing all of it? No. But it's being eroded away. He's no longer the go-to guy. And there's a lot of people that are coming out and speaking out against Biden and speaking pro towards Trump. Now, what is interesting, though, all these never-Trumpers that are running around out there are raising insane amounts of money. Now, this is something to be concerned about. I'm sure a lot of you have kind of heard this same statistic and heard this information and gone, oh, that's not good. Now, I think it's important to point out a few things. One, yeah, this isn't good. Two, Trump is independently wealthy, and he's already said he's going to use his own money if he needs to. Three, he is the incumbent president. He's the sitting president. He is getting a lot of publicity whenever he opens up the mic and starts talking about anything, whenever he gives his press speeches. And he does always manage to kind of sprinkle in a little bit of his presidential stuff in there. Remember me, I'm a good guy. The economy's doing great. Also, he's having a lot of these rallies televised. He's getting all sorts of TV time with Fox News. They're playing a great deal of it. So he's getting a lot of that televised out there. And since you have to offer equal amounts of the same thing to the other side, meaning if Biden has a rally, then Fox has to offer up some airtime to give Biden some time on the air, just like they do Trump. It's an FCC thing. You have to do it. It's political. There's a lot of crazy stuff that goes into political. You've got your lowest unit rate that you sell your advertising for. There's a whole bunch of rules. I work in advertising. I work in this industry. This is one thing I do know a little bit about. And so we've got a little bit of this problem going on for how this is all playing out, how the advertising is playing out, how money's being spent. But the problem is Biden doesn't do any touring. He's not doing any rallies. And if he does, 5 people show up, so there's no reason to really televise it because it basically looks bad on him. So the only way they can try to compete is they have to buy airtime. They have to pay the lowest unit rate on all these different locations: YouTube, radio, TV, cable, all the periodicals, right? All the stuff, all the online, the web banners. There's so many different places that advertising comes into play. So he's got a lot of money that he needs to get out there, and he certainly needs to spend gobs of money to make up for the fact that he says stupid stuff all the time. Well, then 56% of people shouldn't vote for me. Yeah, thank God you're raising a lot of money, dude, because you're blowing through it, 1, and thank God because you're helping my company. I appreciate it a lot. And 2, you need the help, man. You need it. You suck. You got a long way to go. And McCain, I don't like you. I'm sorry. I consider you to be one of the biggest... Anyway, don't have anything nice to say. I'm not going to say it. But we've got to stick together on this, guys. We've got to truly stick together. And just to point out something that's kind of interesting, and again, this is, I don't know, it's just news. I'm finding stuff that's out there. I think it's relevant. But Virginia voter registration website crashes on the last day to register before election. Now, if you're like me, you're like, Virginia, unless you live there, you're like, are they a blue state, a red state, purple state? What are they? They're mostly blue, kind of purple, mostly blue. They have like 4 Republicans to something like 7 Democrats or something like that when it comes to the House. Obviously, so they're predominantly a Democrat-run state. Not sure if they've been noticing a shifting in registration towards Republicans. Wouldn't surprise me. So now on this last day, we got a lot of people that are trying to maybe register as a different party, or maybe trying to just register in general so they can get out and vote. And again, here are some issues around just even registering on a state website is having issues. And really, we're supposed to believe that mail-in ballots are going to be smooth sailing, no issues. I mean, we've talked about it. I'm not saying that they're always destined to fail. What I am saying is there's so many question marks around mail-in ballots versus going into a polling place, pushing buttons, beep, 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 and being done with it. Your vote's counted. You definitely know you voted. You even get a sticker. Life is grand and groovy. Finally, treason. New York Times calls for the UN to take over America. Really? Now, first off, you understand, New York Times, that there are a lot of people, maybe only 3 million less than voted for Hillary, but still a lot of people, like 60 million of them, that actually voted for this guy that you don't like. So what about all of us? What about all of us? You want the UN to come in and take over, but a bunch of us, and certainly when you look at all the flyover states that you like to ignore, they heavily voted for Trump. So why is it that you think the UN should come in to take over for Trump? Shouldn't it probably be the other way around? Because there is a coup happening right now. You're a part of it, obviously, New York Times. You're putting out this false information. You're putting out this treasonous information, basically. Now you're a newspaper. It's not really treason, but it's certainly ridiculous. 2, you're losing even more subscribers. No one wants your paper anymore. And the people that do read it are ridiculous. So again, it's the problems that are happening all around us. The deep state is not giving up. They're going down kicking and screaming, and they're going to fight this every step of the way. We need to stay strong together. We need to remember to vote. We need to support people as they're starting to wake up. We need to have intelligent conversations with people that are maybe in the center or center left that are willing to have conversations and can actually talk about things. And we need to share facts and actual information and real stories of what is going on rather than just making all these crazy accusations. One thing that turns a lot of people off, especially people that believe in the government, most people on the left do, is when you start coming up with all this, oh, they're out to get us, deep state, all that. Yeah, instantly their conspiracy flag goes up and they kind of like push you away. There's better ways to approach these conversations than just kind of hitting it from that easy, hard, brute angle. So let's try to make sure we're doing our parts to have these discussions to help wake people up, to at least be open to listening to what they've got to say. Maybe they've got some important things to say. Maybe they don't. We'll find out, though. It's the important thing. So again, a lot of things are going on around the court. They're saying we're packing the courts. We're not. And in the 31 times in the history when a seat has opened up during an election year, 31 times the president at the time put somebody, or at least proposed somebody for that position. Now, in a lot of the cases, whenever the Congress and the president were on the same party, all but twice, and there's a number of them, all but twice, they went through with no problems. Now, interestingly, in all the cases where the president and the Senate were of opposing parties, almost half of those actually managed to go through. That was surprising to me. Almost half of them. It was like 10. I don't remember the total number, but it was a good chunk of those even went through. So to say this is unprecedented, to say that Trump is stacking or packing the courts is an absolute absurd, ridiculous lie. Any statistics, facts that actually show how many times seats have opened up and how many times the president has actually appointed somebody is 100%. Trump is doing what every other person before him has done. Trump is doing the precedented thing. He is the president doing precedented things. Isn't that interesting? So again, what they're saying on the news is a bunch of crap. This is not packing the courts. Biden's the one that refuses to answer the question, and packing the courts is going from 9 to some other number higher than 9 that could very easily allow you to put people in the court that are basically left-leaning like they've had it before in the past. And they do not like this Coney Barrett lady that's coming into play because she's a constitutionalist. And for any of you that like having the First Amendment, and the Second Amendment, and the Fourth Amendment, or there's a lot of really good amendments out there. If you enjoy having these freedoms that were given to you, that were unalienable to you, that you were born with, if you enjoy having those freedoms, I would highly consider who you're voting for, who you support, and maybe you want to make sure it's on the side of at least not Biden, right? Like, at least not Biden. If you don't vote for Biden, pretty strong chance that everything's going to work out probably okay. If you want to vote for Trump, that would probably help out a lot, and we can definitely get 4 more years of awesome economy, 4 more years of better judges out there, and we can finally, hopefully, see the deep state taken down. Finally. Let's see this play out. Let's do our parts. We are literally, it's the 13th today, man. We're, 17, 18, 19, 20 days. 20 days until election, roughly. I hope I'm getting that right. So stay strong, stay together. Where we go one, we go all. It's on the Fringe with Dan RadioStyle.